Hello one and all, this is my recap and review of Summer Spider So What? Volume 9. And I've got to say, I think this might be my favorite volume in the series up to this point, because not only does it have one of the greatest twists of all time, I'm excited to talk about that, but it's also the first volume that really showed me that the core theme of this series is perspective. This is a world with no heroes or villains other than Potamus and a few others, but for the most part it's people just trying to live their lives and protect those they care about to the best of their abilities. And a great example of this is Agner, the commander of the first Demon Lord's army, and the dude in charge keeping the border safe. Now, we were first introduced to this guy a long time ago, back in, I want to say, like, volume 2 or 3, at the first meeting of the Demon Lord's Council, and back then he didn't really stand out all that much. He was old, very old, even by demon standards, and he'd served many Demon Lords in the past, and that was about it. But then the second meeting, he didn't show up, not because he was busy or being rude, but because he kinda sorta died in the war against humanity. Oh no. Though shortly after his death, it was revealed that Agner had been trading with the elves and was in fact a war profiteer and a traitor, and he deserved to die. At least that was my perspective back then. But this volume reveals a very different story. Basically, demonkind is kinda on the verge of extinction. Their land is barren, their population is depleted, and the citizens are starving. Yeah, it turns out, even though demons have much longer lifespans than humanity, they also have a much lower reproductive rate, meaning that, all these constant wars have just whittled their population over and over and over again, to the point where there's currently not enough demons to grow enough food to keep everyone well fed, so yeah, that kinda sucks. And the only way to stop this is for Agner to deal with Potamus, to make a deal with Potamus, basically saying, okay, I'll give you information on Ariel, and in exchange you give me food and technology and, help me make sure my people don't die out. And Agner's no fool. He's well aware of the fact that Potamus cannot be trusted at all. He is a snake and a coward and just an awful, awful person. And Agner's also well aware of the fact that Ariel is so insanely, overwhelmingly strong that even if all of demonkind worked together, they couldn't actually kill her. So his big plan right here and now is basically to pit Ariel and Potamus against one another and hope that one kills the other. Which is an absolutely insane plan, but it's all he can really do in this moment. And he's smart enough to almost make this work. Very impressive, man. Very impressive. Anyway, though, the reason why he wants Ariel dead is because the Demon Lord's primary job is basically to wage, war against humanity, to lead all of demons in a war against humanity. And no matter how insane this plan might be, no matter how much they're losing, they can't stop fighting. They just keep going over and over and over again. And, so 2 years ago when Ariel disappeared, the demons were thrilled. They were ecstatic. No more Demon Lord meant no more war, and they were able to party it up! And by partied up, I mean they focused on infrastructure rather than building up the military. So, basically partying. And now that Ariel is back, they are all very, very upset. Especially because Ariel is awful to everyone. She is overwhelmingly rude, even to her top-ranked generals. And this actually surprises White's party, because they're like, hey, Ariel can be a little snippy, but she's usually not this mean. Though, as she explains, she's doing this on purpose, trying to figure out, okay, which of you guys are actually loyal and which of you guys are actually going to betray me? And while this is the reason she gives, the truth is, as far as White can tell, that Ariel wants to be hated. She wants to be despised, because her plan is basically going to cause a whole bunch of demons to die. Like, most of the population will probably die in this big war she has planned, and yet she has no other choice. She has to do this for the good of the world as a whole. And so she wants to be hated. She wants to be despised by the demons because she feels like that's what she deserves in this moment. And White is, really touched by this and realizes that there is absolutely nothing she can do to help Ariel in her current weakened state. So all she does is sit beside her and eat some snacks. Which is just such an overwhelmingly touching moment, and I love it so much. Seriously, sometimes all you can do for a friend is just be by their side and just make sure they know they're not alone. That is just so sweet, so beautiful, and I so love it. And continuing that theme perspective, we also have Blow, the younger brother of Balto, the dude who's basically in charge of running the country when the Demon Lord is out. Now, like Agner, he died between the first meeting and the second meeting, but unlike Agner, he made a far stronger impression when he basically tried to start a rebellion against the Demon Lord at her own freaking council meeting. Holy mother of God above, that's bold. That is certainly bold. And so it's not too surprising that he died shortly after that. But this volume reveals that he's actually, incredibly diligent and has a heart of gold. Though he has a very, very poor first meeting with White, given that he almost kinda kills her. I am not joking. So basically, though, what happens is once Ariel's party make it to the capital, she and Mira move into the Demon Lord's castle, while White, Sophia, Sael, Fiel, and Riel all move into Balto's mansion and are taken care of by, their servants. And while here, White is tasked with making as much thread and clothing as possible. Yeah, now that White, saved Sophia, she's able to basically make thread again. Yay! Though she still, is a fairly weak person with none of her other skills. She can't, shoot fire, shoot darkness, shoot rot, any of that. All she can do is make thread, which she thinks is a fairly useless power in this moment. But as Ariel reveals, she can't break the thread. Even with all of Ariel's insane strength, she cannot break the thread because the thread is not part of the system. It is outside the system and is therefore essentially immune to everything within the system. So any clothing made out of it would be the best possible armor in this world. Neat! And so, White being the spider that she is, and, the shut-in that she is, covers her entire room in thread, covers the windows, covers the walls, covers the bed, basically forms a nice little nest for herself. Blow then one day shows up and is like, "What the freak is going on? Why are you people living in my house?" And when he sees that, White's door is, covered with all the thread, he tries to cut it. That goes very badly and his sword gets stuck. So then his next plan is to shoot a fireball at it. This is his own mansion, and he shoots fire within it. He is a dumb man. He is a very, very dumb man. And White, while our thread is, immune from anything within the system, it is still thread, and therefore very, very flammable, and her whole room almost goes up in flames, but Butler steps in and saves the day. And then things go interesting, as Blow sees the woman whose room he almost burned down for just a brief second, and his breath catches in his chest. "You're beautiful." And this man instantly and overwhelmingly falls in love with White, the woman he almost just murdered. And as you might imagine, this romance does not go well for him. In fact, Light Novel even has to say this one line very explicitly. He has no experience with women and has no idea what might please her, so his efforts at courtship have failed spectacularly. And they do actually mean spectacularly. One of his big ideas for a gift for White is alcohol. And I don't mean, this is a fine vintage of wine that I grew with grapes in my own vineyard. I mean alcohol. Hard alcohol. Alcohol so hard that White gets drunk just from smelling it. Yeah, so not the best gift for a woman. Actually, I can't even say that. My godmother would love that. Not the best gift for, someone delicate like White, but she figures, hey, Ariel hasn't let me had a single drop to drink since I evolved into a god because she's worried about my, weak disposition. Why don't I have some fun? Why don't I drink here? And after one sip, she thinks, okay, something weird's going on here. Obviously, Sophia created a spell that makes the entire world shake. So she feels like, okay, I need to stop Sophia. And she does, using her insane physical abilities and her magic eyes. And you may have noticed a problem here. White does not actually have any access to her insane stats or her magic eye skills, or any skills whatsoever, but getting drunk managed to teach her how to use it, somehow. Yeah, I don't really know how that works either, but White got drunk, and suddenly she's able to see the flow of magic and craft runes, just like she did when she was within the system. So, yay! Somehow Blow just turned White into a true god by getting her drunk. Yeah, that's weird. That is so overwhelmingly weird. And I do think it makes a certain level of sense, given that, when White gets drunk, it removes all of her inhibitions. She's able to talk freely and doesn't suffer from social anxiety. So I guess in the same way, getting drunk allowed her to overcome this, obstacle and was able to freely access her powers. It's still a weird scene. It is still such an overwhelmingly weird scene, especially because she wakes up next morning and realizes, hey, Vampy, puppet spiders, why are you all tied to the ceiling? She has no memory of any of this happening, and I love it. It is one of the best scenes in this series. And, Vampy is justifiably annoyed by all of this, not only because she spent the night tied up on the ceiling, and not only because White managed to regain her godlike powers simply by getting drunk, but also because, back when White first lost her powers and became helpless, Vampy was happy. For the first time ever, she could repay White for everything she's done for her. And what's more, she felt superior, being stronger than her. But now that, White is powerful again, she feels jealous and she wants power for herself. And she's been trying so very, very hard to get power. Ever since, her loss against Wrath, she's been training every single night. As a result of her exhaustion nullification, she doesn't actually need sleep, so she just trains in a room from sundown to sunup every single night, and she has definitely gotten stronger. She realized a while back that she's actually really skilled at water magic, and what's more, when she mixes her own blood into the water, she's also able to use the skill Blood Control to just obtain an insane level of precision with the water magic. Good for her, but she needs more. She needs more fighting power. And then, weirdly enough, she thinks back to a horror movie that her father showed her when she was very young called Alien. And she thinks, hey, that alien had acid spit. I wonder if I can do the same thing. So she gets acid attack and acid enhancement, and she's able to mix that in with water and blood to deliver insanely powerful attacks. Though she still needs something a bit more, so she thinks, okay, you know what? My jealousy skill has been at level 9 for a very long time, and I know White and Ariel keep complaining, oh, Sophia, you can't level it up, If you level up, then you'll get envy and you'll go insane and be evil. But she figures, hey, if it's going to level up eventually anyway, I should probably just spend points to forcibly level it up and evolve it into envy. And so she does that, and it is a very bad idea, or a very good idea. I'm not actually sure. It definitely drives her crazy, though. But let's talk about what she gets as a result of it. First off, her debut skill reaches level 2, and she gains the title Ruler of Envy, which grants her Divine Scales and Root of Evil. Now, I have no idea what Root of Evil does, and from what I'm seeing online, no one else seems to know what it does. But Divine Scales, though, covers her entire body in scales that block physical attacks and dampen magic, basically making her invincible, so good for her. And more importantly, the Envy skill itself can disable any number of skills from her opponents. So, yeah, very useful. Very, very useful. And while Vampy is doing this, White is also trying to figure out a way to make herself stronger through the power of conjuration. Or basically, god magic. Essentially, the system that governs the entire world is one giant conjuration spell that serves as training wheels, allowing humans to use conjuration even without being gods. Though it does seem to imply that the system may at least partially be designed to turn people into gods, to train them for the day when they eventually evolve and, are able to actually use real conjuration. It's never actually said, but it definitely feels implied at least a little bit here. Anyway, though, White realizes that she can actually recreate a lot of the skills she had when she was connected to the system, but only those skills that she, used frequently enough to have, their process burned into her own soul, burned into her memory. Though this does not include elemental spells like fire, water, earth, wind, etc., because basically a fireball is more than just a ball of fire. It has, affinities and stats built inside of it by D to make it more like a game. So, for example, water magic is more effective on fire magic than water would normally be against fire, because that's just how D set it up. And White is not able to use fire because there's all these things that link to the system itself, affinities and whatnot. So she basically needs to figure out a way to work around that. It's basically like, okay, imagine you're on your computer, but you're not connected to the internet, and there's a program you want to run, but that program requires internet access. You cannot run that program. In the same way, White cannot run those spells unless she basically hacks into the spell itself and figures out a way to make up for the part that was normally applied by the system. So yeah, it's a lot of trial and error for her. Though weirdly enough, she can still use dark magic and rot magic, which is interesting. Dark magic is what she was most familiar with. She used it so often when she was a spider, so it does make some sense that, it would be so burned inside of her soul memory that she's able to instinctively use it. But rot magic has always been a very, very strange element, a very strange affinity. It was said, oh, this is the element of death, but given the fact that it actually worked on Potamus's robots, turned them from metal into, literally rust, I think it might be more accurate to say that it is the element of entropy itself. It is a universal constant in the system that exceeds the scope of the world. So, very interesting. Though she also realizes that, okay, if I use rot magic, there's a very good chance I'm gonna die. So let's just, put that on the back burner for right now. And weirdly enough, she is actually able to use teleportation magic, spatial magic, very, very easily, like more easily than when she was in the system and was being, given support by that system, which is very, very confusing for her. Basically, now she can just think, okay, I want to go over there, and she's there. Whereas, back when she was in the system, she had to think, okay, I want to go over there, I want to set the coordinates, and then she needs to wait like 10 seconds to several minutes for the spell to actually finish. Now she can go wherever she wants instantly, and the first place she thinks to go is home, back in the Great Elro Labyrinth. And as soon as she teleports into there, she realizes that she is surrounded by an army of white spiders who are all just so overwhelmingly, ecstatically happy to see her. Yeah, it's her children. Remember when she had like that army of spider children? Or I guess her, parallel minds are the army of spider children, but they are technically her children as well since she merged with parallel minds. Either way, they're her children. They're so excited to see her, and they, they love her. They love their mother, and they keep bringing her like monster corpses just because, they want to be praised by her, and it is so, so sweet. And what I really love is the fact that White actually ends up eating a lot of the monsters. She has said many times before that, monster meat was only edible while she was a spider. Now that she's, human, more or less, it's completely and utterly disgusting to her, but she still eats the monster meat just to, make her children happy. And that is the most motherly thing I have ever heard of. And she's basically forced to stay here for several days because, she just can't tear herself away from the children, because when she gets up to leave, they get all like puppy dog eyes and they're so sad, and it is so sweet and I love it. Oh, I love that so, so much. Anyway, though, when she gets back, Vampy is, very, very angry at her for disappearing for a very long time with no explanation. But anyway, though, then we flash over to Wrath, who survived his battle against White and Vampy in last volume, and has gone on a massive dragon killing spree ever since, and has now found his way to the Valley of Convenience. And this is a very interesting place. Essentially, the system that governs this entire world, it is torture, it is imprisonment for all of those who live inside this world. Normally when a person dies, they reincarnate in some other world somewhere else, but because of the system, all souls are trapped here. They're forced to fight, they're forced to die over and over and over again as a sort of penance for the crimes they committed of destroying their world and sacrificing the goddess. But unfortunately, this has caused a bit of wear and tear, and a lot of people are coming very close to what can only be called a soul death. Essentially, their soul will literally collapse as a result of, getting the skills attached and ripped from them over and over again. And when that happens, they're done. There's no afterlife, there's no reincarnation. They're just completely and utterly done. And so Black, aka Gully Gully, decided to create a place where people who are nearing soul death would be able to live, peaceful lives without the need for stats or skills, and just, live in harmony with nature. Humans and demons together, no monsters attacking them. They were happy, they were content there. And Wrath is about to completely and utterly destroy that and kill everyone, which means they will enter the system once again, and when that happens, they'll probably experience soul death and truly, truly die. So yeah, that's unfortunate. And to make things even worse, D forbid Black from actually interfering with Wrath, so there's nothing he can do but stand by and wait. Thankfully, there is one man in the village who can stand up to Wrath. The former Sword King Rygar, the former leader of the Rensen Empire, and the strongest swordsman in the entire freaking world. Apparently he's in this village too. Turns out long ago, he and Elder Ronan, they basically made a promise together. They would fight together, they would save humanity, they would wipe out the demons once and for all. And then after time, he just grew tired of the constant death all around him. So when the previous Demon Lord fell, he decided, all right, you know what, I'm done, I'm retiring. And he just ran away and was eventually brought to this village by Black. And, he was able to put down the sword and just rest and relax and take it easy and live a life without death. But now, to protect his village, to protect all those he's come to care for, he's picked up the sword once again to battle against, as he calls it, the manifestation of all the world's evils and atrocities. Which honestly sounds like a pretty good definition for Wrath. There's also a bit of irony here because, I'm not even sure if this is intentional or not, but Buramis, the summoner, the one who tortured Wrath over and over again, he was only exiled because the Empire needed to save face, and part of the reason why the Empire needed to save face was because the former Sword King ran away, and that lowered their reputation in the eyes of the world. So if Rygar had not run away, there was a fairly good chance that Wrath would not be about to attack this village. Interesting, very interesting. Let me know if you think that was intentional down below. I'm Definitely on the fence about that. Anyway, though, so Ryger picks up the sword once more and is dressed in dark dragon armor. And dragons are an incredibly rare species just in general, but dark dragons even more so. These are truly, truly unique monsters. And as a result of the dark dragon's power, every time he hits his foe, a curse is placed upon them, meaning that there is a chance, a very, very slight chance, that Ryger could actually win this battle if he's just able to cut Wrath enough times. And this battle it's intense. It is seriously, seriously intense. While Wrath is infinitely stronger than Rygar, he lacks polish, he lacks, actual skill, and he's kind of just swinging his sword around mindlessly. And so they fight, and days pass. Literally, actual days pass before this fight comes to an end. And Rygar, he held out. He held out for a very long time. I'm very proud of him, but by this point, his bones are broken, his skin is burned, his armor shattered, and his sword is cracked beyond repair. Yet still he stands, and he feels just so content, so happy that he was able to fight to the best of his abilities one last time. And as he falls, he passes on the title of Divine Sword to Wrath, because even though Wrath is seemingly mindless, throughout this fight, Wrath improved. Wrath learned almost all of the, techniques that Rygar was using in this fight and used them against him. So, yeah, Wrath is now the greatest swordsman in the entire world, apparently, and maybe next in line for the throne of the Renton Empire. Probably not, but that would be funny. But though, then as Rygar falls, he says, "Ronins, my friend, I leave humanity in your hands." And far, far away, the old man cries, without knowing why. And so Black, with no other choice, has Ice Dragon Nia try to battle against Wrath, try to find a way to pin him down, to stop him from, going on this massive killing spree. And it does not go well for her, even though, she utterly wiped the floor with Wrath just a few weeks prior. He has gotten much stronger since, and he fights dirty, and ends up throwing a magic sword bomb into her mouth, which blows up her inside. So, yeah, she's lost this fight. She's absolutely lost this fight. And what's more, at some point while they were battling, Black up and disappeared, which... oh, that hurts her. That seriously, seriously hurts her soul. But Black didn't run away. Instead, he went to go get help in the form of White and Sophia. And he just kind of, instantly teleports into White's room while she and Sophia are having tea. And for some reason, Fia, the puppet spider, brings him up a chair and he joins their tea time, even though his ice dragon is currently being slaughtered by Wrath. So, that's something, certainly. I just love that visual so much. Anyway, though, he basically asks them to stop Wrath because he can't do it, because if he does, it'll annoy Dee and she will kill him. And this is an interesting fight because White, while she does have godlike power, she still lacks stats. She's able to basically mimic them with conjuring, but she needs to balance her attack, her defense, and speed, and she is very much not used to it. For example, at one point, she grabs, Wrath with her thread and tries to pull him by strengthening her arms, but because she doesn't strengthen her legs, she ends up getting pulled by Wrath and flying through the air. Not good, not good. Meanwhile, Vampy, she's actually doing fairly well. Thanks to her divine scales, Wrath really isn't able to hurt her all that much. And thanks to her new acid method, she's able to throw acid in his face, freeze it, and then he needs to wait for it to thaw. All the while, it still keeps burning him. Oh, that is a brutal method. That is a seriously, seriously brutal method. Unfortunately, then at some point, Wrath starts fighting seriously. And, Vampy comes very, very close to death, but White's able to teleport her away. And then she actually says, "Okay, use appraisal on him." For the second time, White needs to explain the use of appraisal in battle. It is actually annoying. Anyway, though, it turns out that Wrath has Battle Divinity level 10, which adds 1,000 each of his stats, and Wrath multiplies all his stats by 10, meaning his stats are around 20 freaking thousand. So, yeah, that's terrifying. And so Vampy's only option is to use Envy to seal off his Wrath skill and weaken him. Though when she says that, White gets very, very confused and annoyed as she realizes that Vampy's jealousy skill evolved into Envy, and that requires a conversation. So she turns to Wrath and says, "Shut up for a second, Mr. Oni," and then makes him disappear and gives, Vampy a rather stern lecture, while apparently not actually saying anything at all because, she can't actually speak. So, interesting. Anyway, though, Vampy's on the verge of tears and crying as she tries to apologize for, unlocking Envy. And then Vampy tries very hard to change the subject, basically asking, "So, where exactly did he go?" and White points directly up. 3 miles up to be exact, because as a result of her new, godlike teleportation skills, she's able to teleport other people, and she's teleported Wrath 3 miles into the sky, and figured, okay, you know what, when he gets back down here, we'll finish the fight, and you'll be able to, see off his skill. Win-win. Unfortunately, things don't go quite that well, because as it turns out, Wrath is a mindless fighter, so we never actually unlock the spatial movement skill, and didn't have any way to slow his descent, and instead he just crashes directly into the ground after falling 3 freaking miles. Somehow, he is not dead, and Vampy is able to use Envy to deactivate Wrath, and makes him much, much weaker. White heals him up, wraps up his swords, and wraps him up as well, just to make sure, he doesn't go on a massive killing spree. And then Nia thanks them for saving her life, and explains that Black is too bashful to actually say thank you. Which is so cute, but Black kind of ruins the mood by saying, okay, White, leave the planet, get out of here, right now. And yeah, I'm not even joking all that much, seriously. He explains that he figured it would take White another 100 years to figuring out conjuring, and that she is now better at spatial magic than he is, so she can leave the planet. And she should, in fact, leave the planet, because she is just too much of a headache for him to deal with in this moment. Oh, that's cruel. That is so, so cruel. Black also enhances Vampy's sword with one of Nia's scales, making it way more powerful, and Vampy is very, very happy about that. But anyway, then they all go back to Balta's mansion, and White goes to bed. Anyway, though, then a whole bunch of stuff happens with Wrath, but I'm going to skip over most of it here because I just did a whole video, about Wrath's storyline. I'm going to link that above, down below, somewhere. Important parts is he wakes up tied to a bed with a little girl standing over him, he gets spoon-fed by the Demon Lord, and eventually decides that he wants to know if there's anything he can do for this world to make up for all, the senseless killing he's done. And while this is happening, White decides to go back to Japan. Yeah, Black said she can leave the planet, but she can only go to places she actually knows about, and the only other world she knows about is Earth, so she just goes back to Japan. I love that. I love that so much. Seriously, how many isekai protagonists actually have the power to go back and forth from Japan to their fantasy world? It is, a very, very short list. And for some reason, even though 5 years have passed in, the new world, only 6 months have passed on Earth. Due to time dilation, something. I don't know, it's very weird, not really explained here. Anyway, though, then she goes back home, and she finds her parents aren't there, because of course they aren't, but somebody is there, sitting at her desk, playing her games. She finds the most evil god, the final god, the god of death. She finds D, otherwise known as Hiro Wakaba, the real Hiro Wakaba. This is the truth that White has not wanted to face these last 2 years, that she is an imitation, a fake, just a nameless little spider who was given the memories of Hiro Wakaba, of D, of the most powerful god in all of existence. I love it. I freaking love it. This is one of the best twists of all time. And not because it came out of nowhere, but because it has been rubbed in our faces for the last 9 freaking volumes. There have been so many clues. I could do a whole video just on all the foreshadowing, but let's go over the main ones. Back in Volume 1, White said that she can no longer remember the faces of her parents, and that's because she never had any parents in the first place. It was all an illusion created by D. Whenever White appraises herself, it always said nameless, while all of her other classmates, when they were praised, it says both their new world name and their old world name. White's status never said Hiro Wakaba because she never was Hiro Wakaba. Speaking of appraisal, White spent 100 skill points on appraisal, and that was all she had, while her classmates had, not even classmates, the other reincarnators had like tens of thousands of skill points, and that's because skill points are a measure of the soul's power, and White, being a spider, had a much, much weaker soul. And my favorite line in this entire series, back in the very first chapter, or here's an even crazier idea, maybe I'm not the real me at all, just some total stranger who happens to have the memories of another person. Maybe the real me is sitting in class like usual even now. They told us in Volume 1. The author literally spilled the greatest twist in this entire series back in Volume freaking 1. I love it. I freaking love it. Seriously, that is amazing. That is so, so amazing. And then things, though, get really, really weird between White and D, as they decide to have dinner together and then play some old school fighting games. And then White spends the night, and yeah, this cycle repeats itself for a few days with just this awkwardness that is just honestly like it gives me goosebumps reading this because it's just like so bizarre, so insane. It's like, having dinner with a giant tarantula. I mean, that's fairly accurate given who White is, but you know what I mean. It's wrong. It's so, so wrong. And yet it just feels so natural for White. It's weird. It is very, very weird. And after a while, White realized, I may just be a fake. I may just be an imitation, but I am real. I ate my siblings. I faced death on a daily basis. That made me who I am today. I became real through those experiences. I am still me. And this gives her a great sense of comfort, along with the fact that she doesn't have any, huge grand destiny. She wants to know the reason why she was born. Turns out it's because Dee wanted to play hooky from her job at the Soul Administration and goof off with a, fun high school life. For some reason, she thought that'd be funny for her. And so yeah, the entire reason why White was born was so that Dee could play hooky. And she feels relieved at this. There's no grand destiny. There's no expectations of her. In fact, Dee expected her to die almost immediately. She reincarnated her into the middle of the Great Elro Labyrinth during a time period where the spiders die in droves. So yeah, Dee has actually been impressed by White managing to survive, managing to make through all of this just through her own willpower alone. And this bothers White because she's so happy. She's so thrilled. She's so excited that Dee, praises her, that Dee, acknowledges her existence. In fact, she even feels herself being drawn to Dee. And as it turns out, this is because Dee named her. Dee named White back when she first evolved into a god. She named her the White Weaver. And naming among gods creates a bond between their souls. So White is inexplicably drawn to Dee no matter what. And, she wants Dee's approval. She wants Dee's love. But at the same time, she is repulsed by the fact that she is being, forcibly drawn into her. So she decides she needs to run away. She needs to flee beyond the reach of Dee, which seems utterly impossible given that Dee is, quite literally one of the most powerful, or perhaps the most powerful god in all of existence. So, yeah, that's a problem. But White still decides, this is what she must do. She must get stronger and she must prepare. And then Vampy steps in, because White teleported back to her new world. And Vampy is, really annoyed that she disappeared again. And this makes, White realize, okay, you know what? There are people in this world who really do care about me. So before I leave, before I flee forever, I need to make sure I give them each a proper goodbye and thank them for all that they've done for me. And that's just a really great way to end things here. Though there are two more scenes I want to mention. First off, when White and Sophia first get to the demon country, they're fairly surprised to see that all the demons look identical to humans. No horns, no wings. Their hair is a bit more colorful, but that's about it. Yes, Ariel spent the last 2 years teaching them all about demon language, demon culture, but never actually explaining what demons look like, all so she can prank them and basically go, aren't you surprised? Which is some insane commitment to a bit right there, which I have to appreciate. I really have to appreciate. And then secondly, we have the old butler's frightening experience. Basically, Balto's butler / bodyguard is really perturbed about, Sophia, White, and the puppet spiders living in his mansion, living in his master's mansion, and he realizes that he must be prepared to, defend against them if they ever attack his master or threaten him. And so he tries to, investigate them as covertly as possible. Doesn't really go all that well for him. First off, goes to Sophia's room, but she's not sleeping. She never sleeps because she has exhaustion nullification, and she's constantly training her magic. And then he tries to go to White's room, and that's when things go dark. That's when things go really, really dark. Because when he goes to approach the door, he suddenly sees a black spider descending and landing just a few inches from his face. And then he jumps backwards, and it begins to crawl up an invisible thread and enters Riel's mouth before she flips her head upside down, twists her body around, and lands in front of the butler. And, this is terrifying. This is so utterly, utterly terrifying, seriously. This isn't even a one-time occurrence. Every time he makes his rounds, Riel does something exactly like this just to mess with the man. She really is the most twisted of all the puppet spiders, and I freaking love it. Though I do definitely gotta admire this man. Not only does he have the commitment to, do this day in and day out, even knowing that Riel is gonna pop out and scare him, but he also figured out that Sophia is a vampire, and the puppet spiders are in fact puppets. Good for him, good for him. And yeah, please let me know what you think down below. What'd you think of Agner? What'd you think of Blow? What'd you think of the reveal that White is in fact not Chihiro Wakaba, but just a regular old spider who happened to be in the classroom, who Dee manipulated into basically taking her place so she can continue playing hooky? Oh god, poor White. Poor White. And just let me know what you think down below, and until next time, peace!